ladies and gents, how the devil? I hope everybody had a good Christmas. Welcome to the show. Is it a show? Who cares? Who cares? Right. Matthew C4 said he needs some sense. Spelt wrong. Matthew, you need some spelling lessons. I'll put that down to a typo, but is the S isn't that far away from the C, I suppose. Anyway, good evening, Matthew, Kate, and Egg Fried Rice, James Glass, Rebel Frog, everybody else who is a regular, Alan Lloyd, JP, there's plenty of you in, so you're not all getting a name drop today. Shag the lot of yous. Right. COVID has been filling the news as usual, and I know I promised I wasn't going to do endless COVID news, but you really can't avoid it when it's just all the bombard us with, is it? I think the weirdest thing of all this is, we've been banging on about it for like 2 years now, and it's impossible to concede the fact now, unless you're an absolute lunatic and you inhabit an alternative reality, which so many of those on the left wing of politics have done for the last 4 or 5 years. Not that long time, really. I know those of you that are infinitely further to the right than I am will dispute that claim. But it is obvious to me that the loony left has only been loony. Like back in the days, you used it as a pejorative, loony left, but the loony left in the 80s and the 90s were positively sane by comparison. This new thing, this woke, clumsily rebranded communism, which does annoy me. We talk about it as if it's clever. It's clumsily rebranded. It's not even subtle. It's as subtle, as I keep saying, it's as subtle as a boot in the bollocks. It's really strange to me how they deny reality with such gusto. Back in the day, the loony left were always consistent. They didn't inhabit another plane of existence. They used to always come at every argument from the sort of socialist Guardian reader direction, right? It was whenever there's a problem, their go-to answer was always blaming the wealth generators, big business, private industry. It was always everything that's gone wrong is because of free markets. That's why they hated Thatcher, right? And everything can be fixed by increasing the size of the government and increasing the amount of control we have over it. And those of us that I assume certainly from interacting with the community of the Angry Bootneck, I assume the majority of people in here and definitely in pubs and up and down the country are centrist, be it centre right or centre left. And most of them look at each issue on an individual basis and say, I do understand the role for the state here. And I do understand that capitalism can go wrong and markets can go wrong. And certainly not all rich people are motivated to do good all the time. But Shane Brown, fuck Thatcher. Shane, I expect better from a northern lad. Shane's from Barnsley. Although, I suppose I'm an outlier for a borough lad, aren't I? Because 90% of the town are lefty arseholes. So there's part of our indoctrination as northerners that go and let us get past Thatcher, but ultimately the debate around the coal mines is quite a detailed and complicated one, and it isn't a simple case of Thatcher was evil, therefore she closed all the coal mines for no reason. That was a shit job, and frankly, if you're one of these, again, these are my people. I spend all my life arguing with people in the northeast about Thatcher. If you're flag waving because your granddad used to go down the pit, you don't realise how lucky you are, because there's some shite jobs in the world. Shane, by the way, has never been anywhere near a pit. As usual, he's one of these quite well-off university-educated chaps who's never been anywhere near a coal mine and certainly wouldn't crawl for 2 miles on his hands and knees to start his shift. So I suppose that's a good thing to talk about when you're talking about reasonable centrist opinions of the majority. Thatcher and the closing of the collieries is a complex issue, and there was pros and cons to closing the pits. But it's not something that normal people think isn't something you can discuss. And certainly the loony left, right? You take them from the old days in the 90s, they would sit and they would have lengthy debates about, was Thatcher a good prime minister? I've actually seen them myself back in the day, going on YouTube when it was sort of in the golden era in the early 90s. You could go on there and find these fantastic debates between learned scholars from the right and the left. You get someone like Roger Scruton going up against one of the many left-wing academics who were his nemesis over the years, and they'll be discussing the pros and cons of Thatcher's premierships. But it wasn't like now, where they just deny reality. The left always had an argument, one that often I would think they had the wrong of it, but they always had an argument to make. Now they just live in an alternative reality. I noticed it yesterday when I was on Twitter, and you see a lot of people on the left calling the right-wingers flag shaggers. And I find it almost intolerable how lacking in awareness they are, because these are the same people who, every time you click on one of the profiles, all you see is fucking flags. Most of them, you go on my YouTube or my Twitter page, I haven't got a flag next to my name. Some right-wingers do. Some are real flag-waving unionists, especially in parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. But certainly most English blokes, I don't think you could call them flag shaggers. Again, you're aware that that's complicated. There's my profile right there. No flags on that except for an LGBT one, which is taking the piss out of the aforementioned flag shaggers. But whenever you click on some lefty arsehole who's using the pejorative flag shagger, you just get bombarded with flags. They've always got the customary EU flag, and then they've usually got the home nations, because they try to pretend that they're patriotic, even though they hate everything to do with the Western fucking canon, right? They've got flags all over the shop. They'll have an LGBT flag, a Black Lives Matter flag, a fucking Antifa flag, a fucking hammer and sickle, an EU flag. It's quite bizarre that they'll say that without a hint of irony. And I think that's what I'm whinging about today. It's this incessant denial of reality. I don't think a 90s lefty would be daft enough to emblazon his Twitter profile with endless flags and then sit there with a straight face and call somebody else a flag shagger because they have a Union Jack next to the name. Or usually they haven't got a Union Jack next to the name. Lawrence Fox doesn't have a Union Jack next to his name. He's just got a cross, but they'll call him a flag shagger. Someone who's emblazoned the profile picture as an EU flag. The header is an LGBT flag. And they'll have hammers and sickles and Antifa flags all over the shop, but they'll call someone like Lawrence Fox, who doesn't display a flag shagger. So first of all, it's not funny, and it's not actually insulting. And secondly, open your eyes and just think of the optics. Like, it just looks like full blatant hypocrisy and stupidity. JMP says, a globe and laurel, the only acceptable flag on a Bootneck's Facebook. Yeah, I suppose so. I don't bother with the Union Jack or the Union flag. The globe and buster is suitable. But again, I think of myself as being quietly patriotic rather than overtly. I don't think I'm a mega patriotic bloke. Maybe I am, and I'm just lacking in self-awareness myself. But I certainly don't think I'd shy away from criticising my own in any respect. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? But that's my rant of today. It's the loony left have gone mental. They're actually demented. They will call you things that they're doing. They're the type of people who will call you a racist whilst beating the piss out of a black woman. Like, I don't know how much more blatant there can be, but that is just emblematic of the way they are now. They're also uniformly bourgeois, like all of them. Certainly the Extinction Rebellion. If you watch any of the footage of Extinction Rebellion when they've been kicking off around the bazaars, they're all posh. All of them. they don't have any self-awareness at all. You would think they would at least be aware that the working classes are pointing out that Extinction Rebellion seems to be uniformly posh, middle class Guardian readers, and they appear to be not even close to grasping the point. Greta Thunberg. I mean, I don't even know Greta Thunberg's background, but I know for a fact she will be the product of a bourgeois, upper crust, lefty middle class arseholes. Just the fact that she got as much traction as she did would suggest that her mother and father are in some way involved with some of these champagne swigging, wine and cheese party silly bastards. So it's just painfully obvious, I think. But yeah, who cares, right? Who cares? You need to see her mother, Matty. Do I? I don't think I need to see her mother. I don't think I want to see the mother. I'm sure she'll be absolutely fucking insufferable. But should we do a bit of news, right? Let's have a look. First things first, no new COVID rules. I think the Tories have left this too late. Uncle Fester there. I coined that one. I'm hoping more people pick it up on Twitter, because if there's ever a more Uncle Fester looking cunt than Sajid Javid, I've never seen him. He's even got the bags under his eyes. Uncle Fester appears to be desperately clinging to the idea that if we just, after 2 years of stomping on people's civil liberties, they can just hold out for a few weeks longer than Sturgeon and Drakeford, that everyone will think the Conservatives are actually conservative in some way and actually care about people's civil liberties, when it's as obvious as a T-Rex in a yellow shell suit that the Conservatives aren't conservative anymore, and nothing they do or say is conservative, and they're not consistent. So I think they've left it too late. Matthew C4, have I annoyed you? Why would you annoy me, Matt? I'm used to occasional outbursts of emotion in the chat. It's fine. No, you haven't annoyed me. C4, I'm hoping Boris has left it long enough to wake up more people to what's going on. Yeah, see, this is a comment worth talking about, because I think he's left it long enough that this is irrelevant now. I feel like Sajid thinks, sorry, Uncle Fester, he will forever be known as Uncle Fester. I feel as if Sajid thinks if they just now pretend, after those shocking poll results and the recent by-election defeat, they seem to think that if they just hold the line for a few weeks now and outflank Sturgeon and Drakeford, that for some reason everybody will forget the last 2 years. And I'm of the opinion that they are 2 years too late, as George Wilson says there. There is no way that the public are going to go back now. Well, I think the vast majority of us have passed the point of no return. I certainly have, and I've said it many times. I voted for Boris Johnson, and I voted for the Conservatives in the last 3 general elections, but I'm not voting for the Conservatives. And like I've said, if it takes a coalition of far-left ideologues taking control of the UK for a short period of time, I'm happy to see it. I'm happy to see it. I'm not doing it. That will inevitably open the door for the left. People, you're not going to be able to get enough support over groups like Reclaim and UKIP or the SDP. That is not going to happen in a short period of time, as what we're looking at. Peter Hitchens has very, very succinctly summed this up many times over the last few years, saying that the Tory party needs to die. And I'm in complete agreement with him. The Tory party needs to die. It has to go away. And I think the last 2 years has rubbed us up the wrong way so many times. It's rubbed us up and down the biggest, spikiest fucking pole you can imagine. I'd rather climb on my granddad's pole than go up and down the Conservative pole again. They've just rubbed us up and down too many times. So basically, as I've said many times, the left are going to win the next general election in the UK. Which the right and the Conservative types are too fractured. You'll get a smattering of votes for the SDP, UKIP, and Reform. But again, it's going to be too fractured. They're not going to be able to put together a unified force. And then you're going to get maybe 50% of Conservative voters are the sort of older normies who will persevere with the Conservative Party until they think there is a viable alternative. So with all of these votes getting pulled in all these different directions, the coalition of the communists will win the next general election. You'll probably be looking at the Lib Dems making massive gains, as they did in week before last. And you're going to end up with a coalition. You'll end up with Labour, Lib Dems, Greens, Plaid Cymru, all of the lefty arseholes, SNP, they'll all help each other out. And the UK is going to be in for some very, very rough times. But only after that happens will all the old normies, when they see the complete leeching away of the support for the Conservative Party, only when we've had a general election with the coalition of the communists winning it, will all of the old school normie Conservatives finally turn their back on the Conservative Party. But you're going to need to see a wholly unsuccessful general election before the old normies are willing to ditch the Conservative Party for something else. So there is very, very hard times to come for the UK, and I'm 100% convinced of it. There is no way, after the damage the Tories have done for the last 2 years, that a significant minority of dyed-in-the-wool Conservatives like me are going to be willing to vote for them. So you short term, the UK is seriously in the shit. I wish I could give you better news than that. I don't have any. And normally my streams tend to be about humour, but this isn't really very funny, is it? Short term, you're in the shit, boys and girls. And that's what's happening. Libs made a win because they're against the vaccine passports, but they're a left-wing party. I think everybody knows that. Even the Conservatives that held the nose and voted for them must know that the Lib Dems are very, very left-wing. Get the Lib Dems talking about female fucking cage fighters, and let's see how liberal they are. Get them talking about anything to do with intersectionality, and then we'll see how liberal the Liberal Democrats are, because they aren't. I don't think anybody who knows anything is aware of that. Chris White will turn into California. California, right? I have to stick up for California here. Turn into California, vomit, vomit, vomit. California, I've had shit ever since I moved out here from Alabama, ever since I moved out here. I've been all over the States. The amount of shit I've got about California is quite alarming. But what a lot of people don't realise about California is, because of the United States' way of doing things, and that's sort of because they are Anglos at the heart. British people formed this country. The Americans are Anglos at the heart. They don't like the top-down way of doing things that they like on the continent. That's why the Brits, the Anglos, have had more problems with the European Union. It just doesn't work for us. Our culture is, if English or Irish people see an old homeless drunk covered in piss outside a bus shelter at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Monday when he should be at work, we see that with our liberal heroes, our Enlightenment heroes, Locke, and all of the other great pioneers from the British Enlightenment. When we see someone covered in shit at 8 o'clock on a Monday morning, our inherent leaning is towards allowing that person to be a fucking idiot. It's just some part of our psyche as a nation. We see someone do that and we'll shake our head and say, you know what? He shouldn't be doing that, and we should try and help him. But it'll be a gentle, gentle touch. the continent has always been top down. It's the way they operate. The Germans see that and they go, fucking hell, he is drunk on a Monday. We must fix it. And again, I'm not having a pop at the Germans, the frogs, but I'm just making the point that culturally we are different animals. And we lean towards allowing the individual maximum freedom, even if the individual is a fucking idiot. And I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of discussing which is the correct way to be. I'm just laying it out for you in the chat before anybody wants to get into some massive debate about Kant and Locke or some shit. That's the way it is. We lean more towards allowing people to make terrible decisions. And it's why the Americans rail against this type of stuff harder than anybody else. The Americans don't like being told what to do, because they're Anglos. You can make the case that maybe the Germans are right. Maybe if everybody was as orderly and happy to lean towards order as basically the Germans are more like fucking Darth Vader, right? If Darth Vader was allowed to assert maximum control over the fucking galaxy far, far away, I have no doubt that you would have a nice, orderly society. I'm actually very open to the idea of discussing at length the benefits to very aggressive measures. If you could guarantee the safety of me to do the very small amount of things that I enjoy, going to the gym, going for a run, going hiking, going to the pub, watching a bit of football, there's not many things I like. If you could guarantee that me and my family are going to be free to do the 6 or 7 things we enjoy, but clean up the streets, get rid of all the tramps, get crime mega low, get the buses to run on time. Even that fat oaf Mussolini could get the fucking buses running on time. If you could guarantee order, there is a good argument to make why the German way could be better. It's there and I'd be willing to entertain it. But inherently, my leaning is always towards liberalism, towards individual freedom, because I'm an Englishman through and through. And that's the way the Americans are. To us, we revere the right for people to make stupid decisions, and the Continentals are more about we need order, we need structure. Top down is better than bottom up, and that isn't the way I was raised. We like bottom up. We like going to the town hall and calling your local leader a fucking dickhead. We like having out with them, and they're like Ursula von Scheisserporn, and they like to be told what to fucking do. I'm not debating the ins and outs of that now. It's far too complex a discussion for me to have by myself. You need a counter argument, not just me trying to be the fence sitter and do both sides of it. But what I'm saying is that is just the way it is. So the Americans lean inherently towards freedom. So there's a lot of people who don't live in California who seem to think, like, because I live in California now, that I'm living in some sort of dystopian hellscape. And the fact of the matter is, because of its decentralized power structure in the United States, invented by clever people who knew everything, and that's why they enshrined everything in the Constitution, it's much harder for one man to exert the will on you, like Darth Vader. That's why it's set up the way that it is. That's why the argument was always, for people like me, to tell lefties to calm the fuck down when Trump won. And all my friends in California that were like left, and I know some guys who are proper lefties out here. My mate Rex, he's like a gay bloke and lives with a man. I used to play Warhammer with him when I lived in LA. Good mate of mine, right? But he sort of lost his mind when Trump won. And I spent the last few years saying to him, calm the fuck down. Just like think about the way America is. The right wingers lost their mind when Obama was in charge. The left wingers are now losing their mind when Trump's in charge. The mechanisms of the state in the United States prevent complete chaos. There's too many hurdles, and I'm always being proved right. The last 25 years in America has proved me right, because nothing much has changed. Obama, Trump, Biden. What really changed? It's still a capitalist country. One man doesn't have the ability to just steamroll over everything. And again, the recent issues they're having with Joe Manchin in the Senate's proven it. It's not easy to make wholesale changes to the United States. So, in the defense of California, I'm going to simply say this. Yes, as a Californian, I'm the saddest looking surf dude on record. I'm not a fucking surf dude. I hate surf dudes. Cliched hippie bastards that they are. Hey, Bootneck. Hey, Lucy Clark. All caps. My ears. How we doing? I live well outside of Los Angeles, San Diego, and San Francisco. And if you check an electoral map of California, it's basically red with blue tumors. It's like a lobster with boils. It's not a liberal hellhole if you're more than 50 miles away from one of these hippie shit pits. And in my local boozer, I would say 8 out of 10 of them are Republicans. So in defense of lefty California, yeah, if you live in San Francisco, you're knee deep in hippie shit. But if you aren't, if you're more than 50 miles out of one of those big 3 cities, California's all right. Yeah, the property's too expensive and they tax the balls off you, so everything's a little bit more expensive. But it's certainly not everywhere you go. There's hippies and prostitutes and random homeless men shitting up against a wheelie bin while you're trying to eat your fucking lunch. It's not that bad, is my defense of California. Although I will say, true story, last year I went running when I was in Pasadena and then I was cooling off. I always stop. Again, I'm an old bloke now. I don't do the stretch up and stretch down like you do when you're a young kid. Now I'm like, fuck it, my body's been worn in. It doesn't. I don't think I've pulled a muscle for 20 years, so I don't do a proper warm up or a warm down. I literally, to warm up, I jog the first 200 meters quite slowly, and then I run quick. And then to warm down, I stop 200 meters away from my house and I walk briskly. That's my warm up and that's my warm down because I'm old now. Everything's broken in. I stopped a few hundred meters away from my house and I started walking. And as I got to a street corner, there was like a black bloke. He was about 50, an old black geezer. And he was living in his little fucking... They have these big trolleys with 50 plastic bags attached to them. And he was there, sitting there, just looking at me. And I was like, all right. Just went to walk past him. And because I'd stopped near his vicinity, he went to me, yeah, I'm not fucking homosexual, man. And I was like, hey, mate, I'm trying to cool down. I don't want to fucking bum you. It's like weirdest thing that's ever happened. And I went over and I said to him, I was like, somehow blokes just fucking accused me of being a screaming homosexual there. Like I literally just stopped near him and started briskly walking past his position. And he basically accused me of wanting to shag him senseless. So, that is the problem with California. It's these big cities. And yes, I don't want to be accused every time I go for a jog of trying to bum an old black man. Not my cup of tea. But that is an issue with California. So if I lived in San Francisco or Los Angeles or San Diego or what have you, I fully agree with you. But seriously, if you're out in the sticks, especially in Northern California, it's just a bunch of fucking old right-wing farmers and shit. You know, you go for a drive in Central California when you're nowhere near these big posh liberal hubs, and it's all Trump signs and fucking, American flags everywhere. It's not a bad place to live. So that one, I'm sure will annoy Mr. Sadwings, is California summed up. America is a great country. It's good at decentralizing power and keeping it from all falling in the hands of one man. And I like to think the last 25 years proved me right. And certainly the last 2 weeks proves me right, because how far's he got with his bill? They might be blaming it all on Joe Manchin, but if it wasn't him, it'd be somebody else. One guy just doesn't get to be supreme fucking leader of the United States. It might annoy you if you're a Trump voter and you were hoping that he'd have the ability to pass all of the shit that he wanted to. And he was hamstrung. But guess what? Those same measures what's keeping it from descending into total fucking pandemonium now. And again, being a centrist, this is the point I always make. If you're in the middle, it's not too bad. Yes, it pisses off the right wingers, it pisses off the left wingers because the left wingers think you're a Nazi and the fucking right wingers think you're a fanny, lefty, whinging bastard. But the point is, centrism is all right because it stops complete pandemonium. Trump gets to do a little bit of the stuff that he wants on the right, but he can't go too far. And it might annoy you a little bit, but at least he leans you in the right direction. And then when the left-wing arseholes take over, they don't get to introduce insane communist delusions. There's always checks and balances. And I think, well, there's a high note to end on, right? It's not that bad. Biden's been in charge in the United States for a year. He's fucked up plenty of things. Everything's more expensive. Afghanistan's a shithole, but hey, they're not raping me. Right, the Taliban aren't bouncing on my shit locker, so hey, I'm doing all right, lads. Sorted. Misery loves company. Watching all of the young girls get brutalized in Afghanistan just helps me appreciate the fact that I haven't got an arsehole like the top end of a Wellington boot, and things are going all right for me. So you need some misery to keep you company. It makes you appreciate having a nice knotted balloon. What's this? What's thoughts on Dan Crenshaw? I quite like him. And being a sort of reasonable middle of the road chap, I will say I don't absolutely love the bloke. I think that like most politicians, he's obviously self-serving in his own way, and the American fascination with veterans sort of confuses me. I think the Brits are slightly more grounded when it comes to that. But just because someone's a military veteran doesn't mean they can't be a fucking idiot. And I'm aware of the irony there, because obviously that was basically shaped me the person I am. I was in for a long time. Basically the entirety of my 20s, I was a bootneck. But yeah, being a military veteran doesn't guarantee that you're an educated, sensible, reasonable chap. Plenty of fucking idiots in the military. And I don't get the American fascination with it. This guy said to me in the pub, like, oh, you know what, we should have. Like, I've been having a chat with a veteran in the boozer, and he'll be like, oh, it should be you have to be a veteran to be the president. And I'm like, why? Like, all that matters, I don't think you should need to have anything. I think you have to trust the public, like I've always advocated, trust the public and let people be whatever they want. If a charismatic savant street sweeper rocked up at the town hall and just started talking, everybody was like, holy shit, this guy knows what he's talking about. Give him the job. You have to allow as many people as possible to have access to the political arena, because that's how we get the best ideas, right? It's why we keep talking about not deplatforming people at universities. You have to let as many people as you can speak, because that's how you get all the ideas, and then you sift through them, and obviously 99% of it's shit, you get rid of it. But you have to keep it as open to as many people. The idea that they should have to be in the military, it's ridiculous. It's as ridiculous as saying they have to have a college degree, or they have to have a certain discipline, or they have to get certain grades. It's like, it has to be open to as many people as possible, and let the big arena of ideas sort out the men from the boys, or the women from the girls. Right? Don't want to forget about Thatcher. I liked her. Even if Shane doesn't. So it's one of them things. I'm definitely not all about, I don't have a hard on for Mr. Crenshaw just because he was a veteran. Fucking hell. And tons of them do it purely to help the political career along. Pete Buttigieg. They join the guard because then they can go, look at me, I'm a veteran, but they do fuck all. Pete Buttigieg is National Guard. He's done less work than the ship's cat. If Pete Buttigieg ever goes anywhere, he's so far in the rear, he has to send his laundry forwards. His socks are 10 miles in front of him, close to the enemy. So it means nothing to me. Service guarantees citizenship, as much as I like Heinlein, is not a mantra I want to get behind. I'll take anyone who seems to be the best person for the job. Yeah, chair force, fucking, they do less work than anything. A paperweight does more than the chair force. So yeah, Crenshaw's all right, but I wouldn't give him even anything like a free pass just because he was a military man, and I never will. And yeah, there's plenty of people. Hunter fucking Biden, probably eyeing a political career like his shitbag father. Hunter Biden joined up, didn't he? He got a pass because of his age, and 6 weeks later he was caught sniffing coke off a hooker's arsehole. But he's still joined up. So it's not something that I really care much about, military veterans. I do not care too much about it. All I care about in politics is you're the best person for the job. Don't care about your race, your religion, your gender. I just want common sense. Let's quickly talk about news because I've just been rambling today. The fear. Case numbers rising. Case numbers are rising because all we fucking do in the UK is test people. We do more bastard COVID tests. I read a statistic somewhere that said in the UK, on average, they were doing 5 times as many COVID tests as like Germany. It's like, so yeah, cases are rising. Whoop-de-doo. What matters is how many people are dying, how many people are critically fucked, how full are the hospitals, and all of those metrics seem to be pretty low. If we spent as much time monitoring people for the common cold or the flu as we do desperately trying to seek out confirmed coronavirus cases, those numbers would look fucking shocking as well. It's a farce, and it's the mainstream media trying to bully the government, who have finally found a spine after getting their asses handed to them in a by-election, trying to scare them into doing what they're telling them. And hopefully, because they're under the delusion that they can still win a general election, they won't play ball. I'll give them credit for it, even as I roundly despise them and will continue to advocate not voting for them. But Uncle Fester can suck my balls, as far as I'm concerned. That even if they stick to the guns and we don't enter in a lockdown ever again, I'll give him praise, Uncle Fester. Well done. You Fester look. Basically, Uncle Fester, if he's been on his holidays. That's it. If Uncle Fester spent 2 weeks in the fucking Canary Islands, that's that cunt. I'm not voting for him or his party ever again until they are resoundingly crushed and something else spawns to replace them. So fuck off, Baldy. Do one, Cue Ball. And I hope your party is in ruins, even if it means we see communists in Downing Street for a short while. Same for Boris Johnson, who I utterly despise. You know what? I'm a little bit judgmental in one respect. I think if people look like they couldn't feed the fucking ducks, I don't have any respect for them. Really fat, out of shape people, I often think I wouldn't like them to be in charge because again, this is a bit prejudiced. Maybe I just think they're more likely to be lazy. And again, some fat blokes totally prove me wrong on the grafters. So it's not a rule. It's just something I lean towards in my own slightly prejudiced opinion. If someone looks a bit lazy physically, then I sort of lean towards it. Like Eric Pickles, you remember Eric Pickles? Fuck me. Eric Pickles, now there's a shambling mess of a man. I mean, could you imagine voting for him to do anything? Look at the clip of him. There's a photo. I've just put him up on Google. There's Eric Pickles. Now call me whatever you want. If you vote for a bloke with more chins than the Chinese phone book, I just think, look at the clip of him. Look at the clip of that bloke. I just don't like people who look like they have so little interest in taking care of themselves. It's like that Belgian health minister, and she's got a fucking 8-figure blood pressure. It's like, I don't like these people. So one thing I've never liked about Boris Johnson is the fact that he looks like he hasn't got the arm strength to fucking feed the ducks. Boris Johnson doesn't look like he could knock the skin off a rice pudding. So, yeah, I don't like Boris Johnson. I hate him. I think he should do some fucking eat all the pickles. Chocolate-covered deep-fried pickles. Pickles aren't too bad for you. Yeah, chocolate-coated deep-fried pickles you might have ate. But, yeah, I don't like people that look like that. And I don't like Boris Johnson. He's just a big, fat, self-serving, pudding-faced scruffy bastard. Discriminating by looks instead of brains. Yeah, brilliant. Well, I did say sad because it's more like a minor sort of leaning rather than a hard rule. Some fat blokes are hard workers. I work with a lad who's a lard ass and he's a fucking grafter. So it's not a hard, fast rule. It's like I said, it's not something that I advocate. I'm just saying, I'm holding my hands up and admitting to a failing on my part. I do have a slight leaning. I'm slightly less trustful of people that look like Eric Pickles' fucking 4 stone head. If your head weighs 4 stone, I lean towards being a little bit more judgmental about you. But that, again, not an hard, fast rule. Just cowhead. I'm not a big fan of cowhead either. Right, I suppose that'll do us for the day. It's nearly an hour, isn't it? 45 minutes. Yeah, please expect the best from the Tories for a few weeks because they've shit themselves. But don't support or vote for them. As I've said many times, it's got to get a lot worse before it gets better in the UK, and we're going to get where we need to go after 4 or 5 years of hardship. History always repeats itself. Why wouldn't we expect unburied dead and streets full of refuse in 2025 when it happened in 1975, right? That's the way it is. Life is merely a cycle. Thanks to everyone for persevering. Didn't Eric Pickles spend 10 grand on biscuits? See, there's something that is. I don't have any evidence for that. But my gut leans towards yes. My gut leans towards Eric Pickles spent £10,000 on Kit Kats, and then he placed them along his fireplace, melted them, and then put them up his fucking nose like that. He does lines of Kit Kat, like most politicians do lines of coke off prostitutes' tits. Eric Pickles does lines of fucking penguins. So yeah, mate, I assume that's true, Blue Van Man, and I don't have any evidence. Right, thanks everyone for watching. I'll be back tomorrow, and I'll try and find some more news to talk about rather than just rambling about coronavirus. Because like I said, I hate going on about coronavirus. I just don't want anyone to feel lulled by their sucker punched into voting for the Conservatives again, because it's not happening. It's not happening. I will see a communist in the White House if it is the last thing I fucking do. Thank you for watching. Tune in tomorrow, and I'll see you all very soon. Hope you all had a fucking marvellous Christmas. I know I did. And remember to break the treadmills out in January because we're going to need them. And I'm too tight to buy new clothes. Thanks for watching. See you all very soon. Toodle pip.